Usually I have a countdown and I start this show a certain way, but what I got to do is I just have to wait for it to show up on my monitor over here, and then we'll get started. Thank you guys for being here. Happy Mother's Day. Shout out to the crowd on TikTok watching. I do not take questions from TikTok or comments, so make sure you get to YouTube and put it in the chat. We're going to be talking quarterbacks. I will get the show started as soon as it pops up on my other monitor. I apologize. We got rid of the intro music, got rid of the countdown, still working some of the other specifics, so bear with me. If you're watching this, try to speed up just a little bit, and then we'll get it started. It's going to be a discussion today. Shout out to Mother's Day. It's going to be a discussion today, and we're going to talk about quarterbacks, and I'm going to do it. Okay, we're there now. We're good. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for being here. Rico knows, going to talk to you guys on this Mother's Day. Shout out to all the moms out there. I don't give a big shout out to all the mothers. You're not my mom. I don't give a shit. I was raised by my father. Shout out to my dad. What up, Big T? No, I wasn't. I was raised by a stepmom, and I just want to say that I don't go thanking my dad on Mother's Day. He didn't teach me what it is to be a good, loving man and all this other shit. Nah, bruh. I just grew up without a mom. It's just the way it is. All right, I do have a biological mother. Shout out to her. Sent her a text this morning. Didn't raise me. Doesn't matter. Still brought me into this world. First person I text this morning. I got a significant other. She's about to have a grandchild. She's got kids. I didn't wish her happy Mother's Day. She's not my mom. Stop that shit. All right, let's get it started. So I go into Twitter every day, and I go see the post and stuff, and you guys see it here. Pro Football Focus had this post, and I felt some type of way about it. They put this post out, and it says, which first-year starting quarterback will have the best season? Which first-year starting quarterback will have the best season? And they have a picture of 5 guys. Avery Johnson, Garrett Nussmeier, Jackson Arnold, Nico Imalivea. I apologize. I just call you Nico. And then Miller Moss. And then it has a question mark with others. So you have the option to put one name in there. And if you read the comments were all Avery Johnson. We're all, hey, you missed so-and-so. It was like one guy, one name, and nobody else. And I just thought, are all these kids uninformed about college football? Like, are all these kids just fans of 5 or 6 teams? This is why they only know these quarterbacks' names. This is why they go to the NFL draft and tell me these are the only players that can play. It's because they don't know all the other teams. So I took it upon myself to put down my own list. And I told these guys, I'll be breaking down the top 50, 5-0. Buckle in, strap in, bro. We're here for 50. Yes, I'll be taking questions and comments. Okay? But I had to put together my list of the top quarterbacks, new quarterbacks that will be starting next season. And I just want to get started right now. I ranked them. I can talk intelligently about 99% of them. This is nothing new to me. I don't need to Google anything. We can just have this conversation. Now, when did PFF post this? 3 hours ago. So I had 3 hours to prepare for this show, guys. The amount of information I'm going to give you, you can't gain in 3 hours. You're about to gain it in an hour or so. I don't know. But let's get to talking. So number 1 on my list of top quarterbacks going into next season that have never started, and when I say never started, they haven't started for the specific school, or maybe they haven't been a full-time starter. They might have started 1 or 2 games, might have started at the FCS level, things of that nature, just so we're aware. But my number 1 guy is Miller Moss. And it's not just Miller Moss because of who he is. And you know what? I wasn't prepared for this. I have our lad's depth charts up because I'm going to show you guys how incorrect that website is, even though our lads is probably the best one when it comes to depth charts. And they're just not always right. They're wrong a lot, but more power to them. So here's Miller Moss. If you guys don't know, this sly looking devil right here, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, lit the world on fire when he went and played against ACC runner-up Louisville in a bowl game and told Louisville, you ain't it. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. The team was raving about him. The players were saying, we now have a real quarterback, one that distributes the ball to everyone. And the quarterback play was so elevated for USC because the 6 or 7 games prior to that, Caleb Williams was absolutely atrocious. Dog shit. Caleb Williams played terrible after about 6 games. You don't believe me? Go look it up. Get to the Colorado game, and his stats fall off a cliff. I believe he threw 9 touchdowns in the final 7 games. The minute he played against teams other than Nevada, San Jose State, Colorado, Arizona State, who was it, Cal or Stanford? One of the, like, it was terrible. Dude lit up nobody. Ask me why I'm not a Caleb Williams guy. Now, that being said, Miller Moss comes off the bench, gets his job, and he starts playing quarterback and doing his damn thing. And you need to understand why that's significant is because you send a player to the transfer portal when you play that good. Malachi Nelson leaves USC and transfers to Boise State. I don't care how many stars you got. When a guy throws for 6 touchdowns in the bowl game, he's not losing his job 2 months later. You understand that? So Miller Moss, number 1 for me. Number 2 for me is Jackson Arnold. And I need people to understand, one other reason why Miller Moss is so high for me. He's got Zachariah Branch. And when you have receivers like Zachariah Branch, he's going to take a screen to the house. He's going to take a slant 80 yards. His yak's insane. That man is great. That's an NFL player that you're throwing to. You're throwing to Percy Harvin. Is it Percy Harvin? Yeah. You're throwing to Reggie Bush 2.0. The most exciting player in college football. There's just no way. Okay? So, the second quarterback that I would talk about taking, or the best quarterback, he's in the picture below me, is Jackson Arnold. Now, I've been watching Jackson Arnold for about 4 or 5 years, right? Shout out to Denton Guyer High School. When he was in the state title game, they lost, I believe his junior year, they lost to Cade Klubnik. And I'm watching Cade Klubnik, and he's great. And I'm watching this other dude. I'm like, yo, who's the guy in gray? Who's the guy running and throwing? Who's that man amongst boys? Holy shit, that's Jackson Arnold. Now, some of you might tell me, Rico, you're wrong. He didn't play great in the bowl game. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, yes, he did. For me, he did. We might have different definitions of great. But if you get your first start as a freshman against a great team like Arizona, Arizona's defense was phenomenal. Arizona finished the final polls, at least my final poll, Arizona was a top 10 team. Because I'm telling you right now, Arizona lost some games early in the season. They didn't have Noah Fafita at quarterback. Okay, they were playing the wrong guys. Once they discovered Noah Fafita and T-Mac can do this shit straight out of Servite, they're like, man, we can't lose. And they went out there and won the game. But this is a man who put up 361 yards against that defense. Arizona's defense is good. Threw 3 picks, I get it. He's a gunslinger. He's learning. 2 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, don't get it twisted. He can run the rock. You see only 38 yards rushing. I see 11 carries. I see designed run plays. He can go. Jackson Arnold is him. I think he's great. And you can't get me off it, bruh. You can't get me off it. Another reason you can't get me off it are his wide receivers. If we're talking about Oklahoma, one of the best wide receiver corps in America. You know how everybody always talks about Colorado wide receiver corps? Are you crazy? Where's Oklahoma? Where's the O's? Are you crazy? Look at this receiver corps. Nick Anderson, they have the nerve to put him on the second row. Nick Anderson is amazing. If you haven't watched football, you don't know. Deion Burks is the only professional player on Purdue last year, and they had a great defensive end that just transferred to Texas A&M. Deion Burks, I watched tape, I'm like, that guy's amazing. And immediately. And they're all on the same team. Farouk ain't playing with you. I'll give it Farouk what you got to say. And then Andrew Anthony, the transfer from Michigan. Those 4 guys, I mean, telling you, man, Jackson Arnold's got some weapons. Once again, if you want to be successful, you better have some weapons. Shout out to Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, getting the job. He's a boring pick, but man, is he efficient. If you want to talk about a bowl game performance, we're talking about Garrett Nussmeier proved a lot of doubters wrong. And I want to tell you guys something. I was a doubter, and now I'm not. You guys, some people might tell you I'm not high enough on Garrett Nussmeier. I got him 3rd. No, that's not high enough, Rico. We just saw him light up Wisconsin for nearly 400 yards. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Yeah, I don't trust some of his receivers. He's got Kyron Layton. Man, Lacey's so good. He drops everything, man. I don't trust some of his receivers, but he's good. I hope he has good continuity with C.J. Daniels, just transferred in from Liberty, one of the top receivers in the transfer portal, supposedly. But Garrett Nussmeier is number 3 for me. I understand the Nico hype. Nico at Tennessee, been dominating in the spring game 2 years in a row now. Been dominating and looks like an athlete. Obviously played out of his mind in the bowl game. I think it was flawless outside of some misreads. And then my number 5, and we're going to get to talking now. My number 5 quarterback that's going to be a first-year starter next year that none of you guys know about is Brock Vandergriff. Brock Vandergriff, former 5-star quarterback, number 1. Okay? Rico, where's Dylan Raiola on your list? Bro, the guys ahead of him are just as talented, just as highly recruited. So, Brock Vandergriff, first time I ever saw him play football, Prince Avenue Christian, playing for his dad, and they win the state title. And I thought, my God. And just for the record, Aaron Philo was his backup. Aaron Philo went on to become the greatest passer in Georgia high school history, and he's now commit to Georgia Tech. But Brock Vandergriff goes to Georgia, and he can't start at Georgia. And there's no shame in not being able to start at Georgia. First and foremost, they had a 26-year-old assistant coach as their starting quarterback for 2 of those years. And then he lost out to Carson Beck, who we now know is the bee's knees. Carson Beck is everything. I think Carson Beck's my top Heisman Trophy finalist, my number 1 draft pick. I know you think he's boring. You think he's not great. Carson Beck beat out Brock Vandergriff. That tells me all I need to know. He beat out Gunnar Stockton. These are 2 amazing quarterbacks sitting on the bench of Georgia. So when Kentucky comes calling saying they need a quarterback, now for the record, I thought he was going to go to Auburn. But Kentucky comes calling and says we need a quarterback, and you got yourself Brock Vandergriff. Fans need to pay attention. Kentucky's wide receiver core is top 5. Barry and Brown is Zachariah Branch, Barry and Brown. Go pick one. And they're going to run all over your ass on a Saturday. So, for me, Kentucky just looks primed to have good quarterback play for the first time in a long time. I haven't been excited about a Kentucky quarterback. It's been a while. Maybe Tim Couch. It's been a while. Woo! I'm going to go through 10 of these, and then I'm going to go to the chat. So get your questions in, your comments in. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, shout out to TikTok. Move over to YouTube. I got you. So the next quarterback, first-year starter, nobody talks about. My number 6 guy, Brennan Sorsby. Sorsby, a transfer from Indiana, going to Cincinnati. But if you turn on the tape, Brennan Sorsby's good. This is a Texas kid. I'm going to pull him up right now. I want to say he's like 6'4", 230 or something crazy. 6'3", 230. Look at that. I wasn't wrong. I was off by an inch. So was your girl. Let me tell you, man, Sorsby can play football. He wasn't the starter to start the season. They were trying to give the job to Taven Jackson. And he won this job at practice, won it in the games. And if you look at the later half of the season for Indiana, look at that touchdown to interception ratio, period. Just look at it. It's 15-5, bro. It's 3-1. This man is throwing 3 touchdowns in multiple games against Penn State, of all teams. You know who couldn't do that? Everybody else couldn't do that. This kid is great. I'm so impressed by what he does. He just looks the part. By the way, he's good for 50 rushing yards every game. He's a dual threat. He's big. He is Avery Johnson, except bigger, stronger, faster. Thank you for the love, Jules. I see you. I'm just letting you know. Brendan Sorsby is him. You guys better pay attention. Cincinnati got a good one. My number 7 quarterback, Lenor Sellers, South Carolina. You guys see it on the chart here. Lenor Sellers just won the quarterback job. I knew he won the quarterback job 3 years ago, bro. Like, the minute I saw Brandon Davies hit the transfer portal last year, he's a Delaware kid, hit the portal, went up to Syracuse, said he'll never play up there. I just said, man, there's no way you go to practice and you see Lenor Sellers and you don't think this is him. Like, you don't think he's it. He is it, bro. He's kind of nerdy. He's wearing glasses. He wears goggles. Looks like Kareem, right? I think he's got a brother that's going to play on the team soon, too. But Lenor Sellers, in high school lore, in South Carolina high school lore, he's a legend. He's a legend. And to see him sit behind a 5-star quarterback, Spencer Rattler, red shirt, that is the recipe for success. I want you guys to think of all the 5-star quarterbacks that red-shirted before they started. I'm talking Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, DJ Uiagalelei, Justin Fields. I'm telling you, there's guys out there who just redshirt, sit back, learn the ropes. Not showing up saying, start me, I'm Rashada. Start me, I'm so. This is my guy. Lenor Sellers. So I believe in Lenor Sellers. Another thing I believe in, you'll notice, is the weapons of Lenor Sellers. He has wide receivers. South Carolina, this offseason, has gotten so many good wide receivers. So if I pull up South Carolina transfer portal, what you're going to see is Gage Larvadain. You're going to see Brown. Let me click on this one. I haven't decided which one I want to click on. So they just got Jacobs from Florida State. I don't care. That's not the guy I'm talking about. When you start looking at wide receivers that can actually play this game, Amari Huggins-Bruce was a baller at Louisville last year. Coming in, Gage Larvadain, former FCS guy, phenomenal basketball player, by the way. Could play basketball. Hey, shout out to all the NBA guys. Gage Larvadain can play with you. That's a Division I basketball player. He's a baller. He was playing at Southern. And then he left the Lions. He goes up to Miami of Ohio last year, and UMass never wants to see him again. I think he had 300 yards receiving against UMass early in the season. They got Robbie Ashford. Ashford should be a receiver if you ask me. That's a whole nother story. But they also got Jared Brown here. And Jared Brown is an NFL wide receiver out of Coastal Carolina. Surprised he didn't follow his quarterback to NC State. I don't care. Jared Brown is great. Jared Brown is a phenomenal athlete. So between Jared Brown, Gage Larvadain, and Amari Huggins-Bruce, you have weapons for Lenor Sellers that other people don't have. Okay, so that's why he's at 7. And number 8 is Aiden Childs for me, Michigan State, following his coaching staff. If you pay attention to Aiden Childs and go watch the tape, he looked better than DJ Uiagalelei at Oregon State. By the way, Oregon State's got some really good quarterbacks we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. But this is a 6'3", 200-pound freshman, very efficient with the ball. Still has yet to ever throw an interception, almost 70% completion percentage, just very efficient. And he got in junk time. But when you put it all together, you just trust this man to make the right decisions. That's what it comes down to. You trust this kid. I like him a lot. I think the upside's enormous, and he's going to be a starting quarterback next season, so I'm excited for it. Then there's Avery Johnson. And I know K-State fans are high on Avery Johnson. There's a reason Will Howard left K-State. You all love Avery Johnson. My issue with Avery Johnson is I watched him play. And I know. Rico, go watch his huddle tape. He can throw to everybody. Look, man, if you're sending me to huddle tape, why didn't I see it in the game? Why haven't I seen it at the collegiate level? I'm looking at a young man who in his first start where he got significant playing time, homie's completion percentage was 45%. 45%, 2 touchdowns. Yes, it was NC State. They had a good defense. But all I see from this kid is he can run, bro. He can run. He can run all day if you want to let him run. His frame isn't conducive to running. I want to make that clear. 6'2", 180 pounds, you're not going to be running the rock very long. That's a skill athlete. That's a skill player. I'm waiting for Avery Johnson to become a slot receiver. I'm waiting for Avery Johnson to become a kickoff returner. Joshua Cribbs, Joe Cribbs, Seneca Wallace, right? You're not really a pro. You're just the guy that can run it, and you're crafty, and you're probably one of the better players, so we want the ball in your hands every single play. I'm cool with Avery. I hope he does well. One thing he doesn't have that the other quarterbacks in front of him have are weapons. He does not have equivalent weapons that the others have. That's just a fact. K-State's receivers are slow. They never take the top off of any defense. Dante Cephas just came in from Penn State. That's an added weapon. But for the most part, K-State skill players leave a lot to be desired in that regard. He does have DJ Giddens. He can run the rock. They are going to get first downs that lead to touchdowns. But I'm just hesitant to say he's one of the top starting. Well, he is one of the top. He's top 10 for me. But you guys get it. Some people are like, Avery Johnson's top 5. And I don't feel that way. Right? When we talk about weapons and everything you can do, the next guy on the list is Max Brosmer. This is a young man coming up from the FCS, just played at New Hampshire, transferring to, where's he transferring to? Minnesota. Let me tell you about this young man. From Georgia, okay? I rep all the Georgia kids. Led the FCS in passing. 3,400 yards passing last year. Back-to-back years over 60% completion percentage. Back-to-back years over 3,000 yards passing. Minnesota hasn't had a quarterback like this in a while. I just hope they use him correctly because Minnesota's running back room is absolutely loaded. Shout out to Darius Taylor and about 4 transfer running backs. Say Bangor coming in from Ohio. That's a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher. They've convinced Marcus Majors to leave Oklahoma. They just convinced another running back to join them last week. I'm shocked. What are we doing? Minnesota's just getting everybody. And more power to them. It's great. Get your best 85, PJ. But Max Brosmer needs to be given a chance to shine. He needs to be given a chance to throw the rock. You got to trust him. You got receivers. They went and hit the transfer portal and found receivers. You have a good quarterback. And it's one of those things where the Minnesota kids are like, well, how good is he? Dude, if you're one of the best arm talents in the FCS, you can play football anywhere. Believe that, okay? When you look at the receivers, Christian Driver coming in from Penn State, I'm not moved by that, but I can tell you that our lads is missing a receiver as well. I know they are. Where would I find it? I would go up here. Let me go up here. Let me go to school real quick. Go to Big Ten. Who are they missing? No. Magnum just, look at that. Magnum just came in. That's a touchdown. That's a short yardage back, by the way. They're missing Tyler Williams. There it is. Tyler Williams, the former 5-star player from Georgia, just transferred in. He's a young talent. He probably won't even be in the rotation for me. But seeing Jalen Varner jump back in the transfer portal, this is an FCS All-American, jump back in the portal after spring ball because he realized the receivers at Minnesota are actually really, really good. He thought he could show up, and they're really good. And that's because if you don't know Elijah Spencer, you just heard the name, or maybe don't even know. You're like, oh, who's that? Dude, he was the leading receiver at Charlotte 2 years ago, right? Grant DeBose was there. He outled him in receiving. So the fact that he showed up last year and only had 9 receptions, that might mislead you and think, oh, yeah, I could play here. That guy can't play. That's a leading receiver on a college football team. Elijah Spencer can play ball. He just didn't have a great quarterback. Shout out to Kaliak Manis. And then Daniel Jackson coming back. That's an NFL prospect. So I just really like where they're at. Receiver-wise, that tells me Max Brosmer is going to be pretty good as a starting quarterback. He's already done it before, right? He's already thrown a ton. So trust that man. At 11, I have Dylan Raiola. 5-star quarterback, a ton of potential. Saw him tear it up in the spring game. Just want to remind everybody, if you get torn up in the spring game, it's not indicative of how great you are. It's more indicative of the lack of depth your defense has. And you might have really good 11 starters. But in college football, you play way more than 11 people on defense. An insane amount more. So those guys getting run over, they're going to be a problem. Let me show you guys something. If I go in here and I go Nebraska football stats, and I go to defense on Nebraska. This is last year. Everybody says, well, Nebraska's returning the most starters on defense. They're going to be fine on defense. I want you guys to look. Count how many names finished with tackles last year. How many? How many of these guys were on defense? Look at that. That's not 11 names. That's 40 names or something crazy, right? That's how many guys get on the field in college football. It's not the NFL. It's different. You're rotating defensive linemen. You're rotating linebackers and defensive backs. Every position group in college football rotates, except for the offensive line and quarterback. So if you don't have the depth on defense, it's a problem. So yes, I saw Dylan Raiola tear it up at practice, and that doesn't motivate me. That doesn't get me excited because that tells me your second string defense is trash, and that's a problem later in the season or in the second and third quarter or every other series when you rotate those guys. I'm letting you know. So I don't like it. But Dylan Raiola, 11, I respect it. At 12, I have, okay, I'm going to go to chat. I'm going to stop there before I go to 12. Let me go to the chat. Shout out to TikTok if you're watching us. Move over to YouTube. Bring your questions. In chat, it says, oh, this is about to be great. Shout out to you, Connor. I'm glad you're learning about the players. Thank you guys for being here. If you're watching this on YouTube, please tap your screen and hit the like button. Or you can leave the live stream, then hit the like button before joining, and then come back in. But I'd like it if you guys could hit the like button. I appreciate you guys. Derek H. says, yo, Mike is a Nebraska homer. He says those 5- and 4-star quarterbacks sure liking what they see at Nebraska. 4-star TJ Leifert committed today, too. There we go. Lateef? I don't know this guy. Shout out to you, Mike. Congratulations. Miller Moss might be him. Phantom? Danny Phantom, yes, he might be him. We're going to find out. Locked in, Rico. Motor City Muscle, shout out to you, man. Divine Obsidian says, episode 4 of the wide receiver transfer portal coming soon. Divine Obsidian, unfortunately, right now, I'm doing NFL draft previews. I'm doing college football deep dives on Patreon. Shout out to my MVPs. And I'm doing UFC fights every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I am a little busy for podcasts right now. I can do a Sunday podcast on a particular topic. Today, we're talking quarterbacks who are going to be starting quarterbacks upcoming season. I'll try to come up with a different topic every single Sunday and see what I can pop off to you guys. Other than that, I got to keep my video production going through the summer. I will get back to the podcast, daily podcast, during football season or as we approach maybe August timeframe. I apologize. I know you're waiting on that first episode. Thank you for the support, though. I really appreciate you, Divine Obsidian. RJ says, shout out to you, Rico, for knowing about the receiver room at UK. Brown is definitely a guy. Yeah, there's casual fans who don't understand that there are other teams out there with loaded talent that just aren't being utilized because of certain, deficiencies in other areas, whether it be an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, a quarterback's coach, a head coach, whatever it is. Some people can be holding you back from being great, and I think Kentucky is a prime example of that. Their receiver room is second to no one. Statistically, yes, they're not at the upper echelon. But if we had tryouts tomorrow and we took everybody's jerseys off and it was just a bunch of dudes working out and you didn't know their names, I guarantee you, if we had tryouts, you'd be like, "Yo, get that guy, get that Barry and Brown guy." And you wouldn't even care, right? It doesn't matter. So that's how I feel about him. Max Brosmer might be him too. Rico, what are your thoughts on the Missouri State Bears making the jump from the Missouri Valley Football Conference to the FCS, going to USA? Seems like decent recruiting grounds. Yeah, man, David Pitton, it's exciting to see new teams coming up to the FBS. I'm proud of their school for being committed to their athletic department a little more as far as financially goes. I love to see new teams joining Conference USA. It'll be a new team to learn. I've watched a lot of Missouri State players transfer into the FBS level. If you didn't know, Missouri State can play football. They can play at an FBS level. They just had their star receiver Sharp. He just transferred to Fresno State. So there are players that can play there. It's just a matter of putting it all together and then, recruiting and growing from there. So it's exciting. My thoughts on the Auburn quarterback room. I'm going to use one word to describe the Auburn quarterback room. Anemic. Does Cam Ward qualify for this list? Not at all. Cam Ward has been a multi-year starter. These are all first-time starters. All right, thanks for the questions. We'll get back to them. Shout out to you guys. Please move over to YouTube and ask the question. Thank you guys for being here. All right, next quarterback I'm going to talk about, number 12, Nate Yarnell at Pitt. If you didn't know, last season, Nate Yarnell was not the starting quarterback at Pitt. They were starting that Jerkovich dude, the transfer from Boston College, and I was very critical of him. The thing is I didn't know who else they had on the team. They had that Christian Villieu kid, the Canadian, the Penn State transfer. And then they had Nate Yarnell. So he was third string on Pitt last year. Third string. And for whatever reason, this 6'6", 215-pound, obviously another Texas kid, finally gets the reins. And we watched him against a Duke defense. And I'm telling you, man, this kid played great. They lost the game, but he played great. He looks the part. Nate Yarnell looks like a very good football player. Yes, they signed Eli Holstein this offseason out of the transfer portal. Eli Holstein, a Louisiana kid. I really like him. Probably the second best quarterback coming out of Louisiana his high school year. Shout out to Walker Howard, probably ahead of him. But Eli Holstein goes to Alabama, gets buried in the depth chart. At some point, Dylan Lonergan passes him, Brookwood's finest. I'm not a big Dylan Lonergan fan, but that puts Eli somewhere in the 4th or 5th string on the depth chart at Alabama. Lose your coaching staff. No better time to leave than now, and he jumps in the transfer portal. And now you find him at Pitt, and if you watch the spring game, let me tell you guys something. Before this video, so far I've probably watched 60 spring games, 6-0. And I want to tell you, Eli Holstein looked terrible in his spring game. They gave him a majority of the reps. He was really slow, wasn't running around, wasn't really active. He had a sleeve on his right knee, I believe, and his passes just weren't where they needed to be. I was not excited about it, and I understand. He's learning a new offense. They got a new offensive coordinator, just came in from Western Carolina. They brought in a bunch of skill players from there. Shout out to Desmond Reed and some other guys. But for me, it was a little underwhelming. I think Nate Yarnell wins this job. I think Nate Yarnell's good. And if he does win the job, expect Pitt to play well. Expect him to play well, better than you anticipate. Another quarterback I really believe in is Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt just came over from Michigan State, went to Arizona State, and that's why Rashada went packing, bro. I don't want to hear about no money. I don't want to hear about Rashada went to Georgia, Rico. He's amazing. Nah. Sam Leavitt showed up and took your girl. And your girl in this case is the ball. Sam Leavitt had a great spring. And it looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback for Arizona State. Arizona State, I am not predicting they're going to have a phenomenal season by any means. But it wouldn't surprise me if Sam Leavitt played really good. Shout out to Sam Leavitt. He looks good. Looks good on tape as well. Malachi Nelson, Boise State. Got to Boise State out of USC, former 4- or 5-star quarterback, whatever you want to call it. Gets up to Boise, wins the job. It looks like he's winning the job. It looks like he's the starter, especially after spring ball. Congratulations. You don't have any great wide receivers. They hit the transfer portal. They left. You lost your coach. You have a stellar running back. He's going to help you. The box will be stacked. There will be no honest box at Boise State. There will be 8 to 9 in the box, meaning you have man-to-man coverage on the outside. Take advantage of it. Malachi Nelson, win those battles. But I have him at 14. He has a lot of upside. Speaking of upside, Malik Murphy. Looks like he has more upside. Now, there's another guy I have on this list. I'm going to show you Loftus. He's down here, Grayson Loftus from Duke, okay? Don't let me mislead you. If Malik Murphy wins the job, his upside is up here, okay? His upside is very high. He's very good. Oh, by the way, this is the backup quarterback that left Texas, right? Transferring from Texas, going up there with Manny Diaz at Duke. But Duke has a quarterback. Grayson Loftus played really good. He played better than Riley Leonard last year. I love Riley Leonard. He transferred to Notre Dame. But Grayson Loftus, the backup quarterback, comes off the bench all season long, and I thought he just played respectable. He didn't look out of place. Looks like a good kid. Now, in the spring game, yes, Malik Murphy was dropping dimes. And Malik Murphy looked like he had the willingness to throw it downfield. I can't tell you guys how many times I watch film and I see a quarterback make the right read and throw it, dump it off, check down, tight end, right? But when you have 3 routes and they're laddered and you have that 5 and out, that comeback, and that post or that post corner, you want to find the quarterback that has the courage to hit that deep ball. And I believe Malik Murphy does have the courage to make those throws, does have the confidence in his arm, and that's why I have him so high at 15. He looks like a good quarterback. I hope it works out for him. At 16, it's UNLV's quarterback battle. I don't know who's going to win the quarterback battle, but whoever does has a loaded team. You have Ricky White at wide receiver, one of the best receivers in the country. You have 3 quarterbacks, I think 4, if you count Doug Brumfield, if he's still playing. If you didn't know, Doug Brumfield, 6'4", 220, 230, chandelier, bro. He is as fragile as a motherfucking chandelier, okay? Yes, he's from Inglewood. Yes, he's a baller, and he beat out a bunch of people, but there's a reason the coaches brought in all these other quarterbacks. So now, we have Cameron Frill. Cameron looked really good in the spring game. He was the only guy I saw in the spring game clips. I couldn't find Sluka anywhere on campus. I couldn't find Matthew Sluka doing his thing. And then Malik Williams, is from Campbell, and it's his final year. Listen to me. The only reason UNLV quarterback room is ranked this high is because somebody's going to be a first-year starter, unless it's Doug Brumfield. He used to be the starter. But Matthew Sluka is a back-to-back 1,200-yard rusher out of Holy Cross. Matthew Sluka, if you want to know what he's about, go watch the Virginia game. Virginia versus Holy Cross. Who remembers the prediction? I made a prediction. I said Holy Cross is covering this spread. I said Holy Cross got the juice. Virginia ain't ready. And it was all because of Matthew Sluka. He is him. That is the baddest dude on the planet. White dude. Rushing 1,200 yards, back-to-back seasons. Do not F with Matthew Sluka. Does he get the quarterback job? I don't know. He better. If I'm a coach, he's getting it. If he's healthy. I don't know. Maybe he's not, right? Next guy is Ethan Vasco. A lot of you guys might be like, who the hell is Ethan Vasco? You're going to see him here. It's a Kansas quarterback. Transferred to, I'm trying to find his stats real quick. I was thinking of the Western Kentucky kid when I put him up here. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. They both did the same thing. Ethan Vasco is a complete stud. He's at Coastal Carolina. Yes, he lost his star receiver. But what Ethan did to San Jose State in that bowl game, in the Hawaii Bowl, we bet on every game. Shout out to the MVPs. I predict every single game. We did not see this coming. I think we hit. I think we won. We hit on 65% of our bets against the spread. No big deal. But Ethan Vasco threw 3 touchdowns when the lights came on and he was given the reins. He still doesn't throw it down the field very much, but he looks like he's the guy. And he looks like a good starter. I like him. He's got 3 years of eligibility left, 2 years. He's been in college football for 3 years, and he's still got 2 or 3 years left. I like it. So Coastal Carolina at 17. At 18, Dylan Morris. If you don't remember Dylan Morris, he was supposed to be the starting quarterback at Washington. And then a guy showed up from Indiana, some left-handed transfer showed up, beat him out, and then he was relegated to the bench. Dylan Morris is a very good get for JMU. So seeing him being a starter for the first time at JMU will be pretty exciting stuff. MJ Morris going to Maryland. I wasn't excited about this move. Shout out to MJ Morris, NC State kid. Very athletic. Spring game. It looked so good. Listen to me, though. Billy Edwards Jr. is not a scrub. If this man does not play well, if MJ Morris does not play well, Billy Edwards Jr., who I have right here at 26, will be the starting quarterback for Maryland. And it's one of those things where, like, Maryland has a good quarterback, but not a great one. And if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one, right? You don't have somebody the whole team believes in. So I'm not sold on MJ Morris like that, but he's athletic. And I have him right in front of another athletic quarterback in Giovanni McCoy. Oregon State brought in a bunch of quarterbacks. Let's go to this. Let me show you guys this. And I'm cool with Oregon State. Obviously, they lost Jonathan Smith, their head coach. They lost their quarterbacks, 2 of them, and they had to bring in quarterbacks. So they bring in Giovanni McCoy and Jabari Johnson. Now, Ben Goldbrin, he's been around for a while, and he's super underwhelming. There is no ceiling for Ben. Ben is just a workable dude at the starting quarterback spot. I don't think he starts. Giovanni McCoy played at Idaho 2 years. He's so good. Giovanni McCoy, turn on the tape. Giovanni McCoy is one of the best quarterbacks in America, dominating the FCS. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, that type of domination in the sense that he's just an athlete who can go out there and handle his shit. I really like Giovanni McCoy. But spring game, Jabari Johnson just showed out. Jabari Johnson was running. I didn't see McCoy anywhere. Jabari Johnson. This is a Missouri transfer. Both are kind of identical to me. Doesn't matter who wins the job. They're not going to have very many weapons. They just look a little underwhelmed, but very good players, pretty good quarterbacks. Ethan Garbers is the next one at 21. Ethan Garbers, UCLA. Yes, they started Dante Moore to start the season. They found out real quick Dante Moore is not very good, and we need to bench this 5-star kid. And everybody else who was talking about Dante Moore being great, you don't know what you're talking about. Rico, we got to start a 5-star guy. No, you don't. You got to start that guy, Ethan Garbers. And it's night and day when they did that. So Ethan Garbers goes out there. Yes, he has no threat with his legs. But Ethan Garbers can complete 67% of his passes compared to 53%. 67%, 53%. It's terrible. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Takes care of the ball. Go turn on the tape. Ethan Garbers makes the right decision. Yes, he's boring. Yeah, you're not a fan. UCLA is. He's going to do his thing. And with his receivers, J. Michael Sturdivant coming over from Cal from last year, a couple other guys he has, I really like UCLA in their quarterback room. I'm cool with Ethan Garbers. Another quarterback room nobody talks about is Washington State. John Mater and Zevi Eckes. Now, Zevi is a transfer. Where's he coming from? Brantley, I think. Zevi's so interesting to me. I think it's his senior year. And he's so good. And if he can't beat out John, I don't blame him. But either one of these guys is better than Alex Orji. Like, Alex Orji can't play with these 2 dudes. Turn on the tape. Alex Orji has 1 pass completed in his whole life. And don't believe all the hype. Don't believe all the bullshit. I'm just telling you right now, today, Alex Orji is not as good as these 2 guys. I like Washington State's quarterback battle. Whoever wins it, they'll be somewhere in this range for me. Shout out to them. I put Alex Orji here by default. We're assuming he can play well. He has a hell of a running back, has a great offensive line, has great receivers. Don't fuck it up, bro. And I think you will. I'm going to get to Gio Lopez next. You know what? I'll stop at 25, go back to the chat. Gio Lopez, we actually got to see a lot of him last year. If you're an MVP, you watch every game with me during the week. We cover every single game, and we covered some South Alabama games. And Carter Brantley got hurt, their starting quarterback. And once he got hurt, Carter Brantley, where did I come up with his name? What is wrong with me? Sorry, I just clicked on. Excuse me, I'm clicking on all kinds of stuff over here. Give me a second. What am I thinking? What did I say? I'm tripping, bro. Carter Bradley. No, what did I say? Brantley. Carter Bradley. Sorry, guys. One mistake every day, bro. At least one, right? So Carter Bradley gets injured. Gio Lopez comes off the bench. Gio Lopez really surprised a lot of people. Gio Lopez looked good. And it's one of those things where I'm like, hey, they're not going to be losing much when Gio Lopez gets in the game. Trust. Gio Lopez looks good. Dexter Williams, Georgia Southern. Not your typical Georgia Southern quarterback. Remember, Georgia Southern, they stole Tyson Helton's offense because that's what Clay Helton does. He steals things. No, Clay Helton, the head coach, goes to his brother, Tyson Helton, who's the West Virginia head coach, says, yo, bro, I'm going to copy your offense. What are you doing? Oh, we throw the ball 60 times a game. Hey, I'm going to start doing that. All of a sudden, Georgia Southern, one of the nation's leading passing teams now. Now they got all these quarterbacks that want to play there. Now they got all these people showing up. The problem is sometimes you don't get all the best players. Sometimes you just get some random transfers. So you get Dexter Williams coming in, and he's apparently won the job. Congratulations. In the spring game, he threw for a lot. He looked good. I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel like the other years when they had other good transfers. I hope he plays well. What I do know is Georgia Southern has good running backs. Shout out to Amari Arnold. O.J. Arnold, one of the best. Shout out to Brooks County. I'm a big fan of their running back room, but the rest leaves a lot to be desired. What I will say, there's another transfer, J.C. French down here. J.C. French, a local Georgia kid. Liked him in high school. He went out of high school. He signed with Memphis. And he's a 3-star kid. He goes to Memphis, and he realizes real fast, I can't play here. There's fucking Seth Hennigan over there. They got players here, and he transfers back to Georgia Southern. Smart move, got to Georgia Southern, sat the bench last year, and here he is. He is competing for the job, and I think he's got a viable chance. But he's in this range of all these other guys. If he does win the job, I think it's a step back. It is what it is. I've already talked about Billy Edwards. I'm going to go to the chat now. Let's see. Mike says Dylan Raioli, 11th. Interesting. Yep, a lot of guys are, established more than him. I thought you would know TJ Lateef, knowing he visited Colorado and makes so many on Colorado. My bad. Yeah, I don't pay attention to who visits Colorado, man. If somebody sends me a DM and says, Rico, can you make a video about this? I'll make a video about it, but I don't wake up every morning and eat, sleep, and breathe and shit Colorado. That's not an ideal life for me. I'm good. Their fans are toxic. Lake Travis, consistently producing top-tier quarterbacks. I don't get it. Miles Weber, you got to get it. All the good players in that area just transfer there. That's all there is to it. Let's go. What up, Hunter Darling? Appreciate the response, Rico. Have any insight on Rashad's reasoning for transferring to Georgia? On Rashada, yeah, man, money and the sales pitch that we develop professional quarterbacks. That's what every coaching staff is going to say. Come to our team. You'll get reps and developed at practice that will prepare you to be a starter at other schools. And then they'll show you. They'll be like, don't you see? Brock Vandergriff is now the starter at Kentucky. You too can be the starter at another SEC school if you can't start here. Don't worry about it. Just show up. If you don't win the starting job, you'll be good enough to start at another SEC school. That's what they're selling. It's crazy. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't see the appeal. But shout out to Georgia, because all they're doing is making sure they improve their 85. And that's what every school is supposed to do. That's what every coaching staff is supposed to do, right? Make sure you're improving your 85. With no regard for that young man's college career. That's irrelevant. Whether or not he plays, absolutely irrelevant. The fact that they have 3 quarterbacks better than anybody else is probably more relevant, right? They don't care, bro. Coaching staff, job, get the best we can to fortify this fort. Period. I'm telling you, man, I got a young man in my DMs. I've been consulting with him for a while. And he's been trying to go, quote-unquote, D1. Now, he's an FCS player, all-conference FCS player. And he says, hey, Mr. Rico, can you help me find the right school? So I find out some offensive line coaches we can talk to, some things. And we go talking to them. He goes, okay. So we line up a trip. and he goes on his trip to a particular Big 12 school. And the Big 12 school says to him, we want you to be a preferred walk-on. We're going to give you enough NIL to cover your walk-on. Okay. Am I starting? Am I transferring here for playing time? They said, oh, we want you to transfer in to compete for the guard number 2 spot. You heard me right. They're signing transfers just trying to shore up their second guard spot. They don't give a shit about the start. They're good on their 11. They don't care that it's your final year and you're leaving an FCS school. They don't care, bro. They don't want to see you on the field. We need you to come over here and be our backup guard just in case some shit. Man, get out of my face, bro. I want to transfer and play football. It's crazy. Let's go. Thoughts on Jermaine Burton? I don't think about Jermaine Burton all that much. Jabari Johnson, shout out to you, Clint Moses. I do know. Is it interesting? It is interesting time here in Michigan. Rico, Orgy, and Childs will be something. There you go, Motor City Muscle. Do some push-ups. Giovanni McCoy, Rico knows. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right, back to the chat. Thank you guys for being here. I'm sorry, back to the list. I appreciate everybody for being here. Glad we had that convo. TikTok, if you want to ask me a question, get to YouTube. Put it in the chat. I will get to it, I promise. Sorry, I don't read chat while I'm doing the show. All right, back to Billy Edwards. Already talked about him at Maryland. I think he's a good, viable option, a good quarterback. Obviously, the coaching staff didn't think he was the only one. That's why they brought in, what's-his-face from NC State? MJ Morris. My bad. I should never say what's-his-face, but that's what happened there. Same thing with Duke, bringing in another quarterback to compete with Grayson Loftus. Jabari Johnson coming in from Missouri to Oregon State, like I already talked about. Rewind the show. And then we get to number 29, Kai Horton competing with Ty Thompson at Tulane. And a lot of people thought right off rip, Ty Thompson is the starting quarterback here because he just transferred in from Oregon. But if you saw the spring game and you're paying attention, Kai Horton's not out of this. Kai Horton threw some really good passes, did some really smart things. Yes, Ty Thompson brings dual threat capability to it. But if you remember Troy, which is where Summerall comes from, the head coach at Tulane, Troy did not have a dual threat quarterback. Troy had a traditional quarterback, and they brought over their offensive coordinator and their quarterback. They're just looking for somebody to process. They're looking for somebody to do something. Let me say this. Tulane wide receivers are elite. Tulane wide receivers are it. Be careful. You just need to find a quarterback that can get them the ball. That's real. So I'm excited for that Tulane quarterback battle at 29. At 30, Caden Hauser in East Carolina. And then I have him right in front of Jake Garcia at East Carolina. East Carolina spring game, both of them played really well. They played better than anticipated, I would say. But we'll see who wins the quarterback battle. It's a little underwhelming. Yes, if you don't know, Caden Hauser transferred from Michigan State. We'll see what happens there. And then Jake Garcia, the 5 different high schools, 4-star, All-American, California, Georgia, wherever the hell he wants to play, went to Miami out of high school, then flipped, then transferred to Missouri, then left there. Now he's at East Carolina. I bet not in a million years did he and his father dream that he would be at East Carolina fighting for the quarterback number 2 spot. But that's what humble pie tastes like, bro. Be realistic about your talent. Wake up. There's quarterbacks everywhere that can play this game. Shout out to number 32, Jake Lausch, Northwestern. I did not see this coming. He won the job, apparently, and that blew me away. So Sullivan jumps in the portal, leaves to Iowa. Now you have Northwestern. Jake Lausch, congratulations. Northwestern will have a bad year. Northwestern won 8 games last year. Shout out to David Braun. After winning 1 game, Northwestern went out and won 8 games and won their bowl game in their first year. Do you guys understand? A highly academic institution hired an FCS coach who was only going to be the defensive coordinator in David Braun, and they had a far bigger improvement than Colorado. Everything Coach Prime's preaching and talking about and all this shit, a dude who knows what the fuck he's doing, a dude who knows the job, showed up at Northwestern and went from 1 win to 8 wins and beat Utah in a bowl game. Colorado lost to that Utah team the week before. Like, I'm being real with you, y'all. Northwestern did it. And nobody is paying attention. But the reality is Northwestern will have somewhat of a drop-off this year. I think they're going to struggle. And I don't want to go into much detail because I do win total predictions for the MVPs on Patreon. If you ever want to go to Patreon, you will see that I do my predictions and I get those right. But people gamble on what I say, so we got to sell it. Just so you're aware. Number 33, Cooper Lagasse and Kirk Francis at Tulsa. Shout out to Kirk Francis. I saw you on Twitter, started following me, threw me a like. It's pretty simple, man. Cooper Lagasse is a transfer from Utah State. Played good last year, but I don't think he's much of an upgrade from Kirk Francis. Kirk Francis is a Texas kid. Got the starting job late at Tulsa. Remember, last year, Tulsa, I'll take you back 2 years. They had two quarterbacks competing for the starting job. One of them was Braylon Braxton, and the other was Davis Brin. And Davis Brin played pretty bad, but Davis Brin ended up transferring to Georgia Southern. So Braylon Braxton stayed at Tulsa. Davis Brin ended up going to Georgia Southern, and last year Davis Brin led the country in interceptions. He's a gunslinger, throwing it everywhere. It didn't work out, but he did get to start. So Braylon Braxton stays at Tulsa, and you think he's going to play out of his mind. And Braylon Braxton, when you look at him, he looks like a poor man's Vince Young. He looks like a huge dual-threat quarterback that can just do anything on the football field. For whatever reason, he stopped learning how to play football. He's been terrible. He doesn't know how to play quarterback. He's absolute dog shit. He's so bad that at one point they just had to bench him and be like, yo, Kirk, do your thing. Now, Braylon Braxton. If you're watching this, I understand you got injured, bro. I don't care. You make terrible decisions with the football. One of the worst quarterbacks in America, period. Okay? And then they go out and they say, all right, show us what you got, Kirk Francis. And Kirk Francis plays great. Plays great. Love it. And then coaches go, all right, Kirk's our guy. They're underwhelmed by Kirk. They're bringing in other transfers, a senior transfer at that. I don't like it, man. It sucks. Georgia State just lost Granger. Darian Granger, he's gone, all right? All-time great in school history and all that stuff. And you bring in Zach Gibson. I believe Zach's a Georgia Tech transfer, a Georgia kid and all that stuff. Shout out to Zach Gibson. I think he's doing well. New coaching staff, they like him, kind of business-like. Nothing too remarkable out of him, but congratulations, Zach Gibson. Number 35, J.C. French. I already talked about him. Going to Georgia Southern. Hope he wins the job. Number 36, Tucker Gleason, California kid, up at Toledo. Toledo's quarterback just transferred out, went to Baylor. So now you have no competition at the quarterback spot. Tucker Gleason should win that job. Tucker Gleason, in his time on the field, we watched him in MAC action. Very underwhelming when he finally got to play. I'm not excited about his potential as a starting quarterback. Number 37, Ben Woolridge, Louisiana. You might not know this. This is a good trivia here. Ben Woolridge is at Louisiana because of Jake Fromm. Yeah. Jake Fromm wins the quarterback battle at Georgia. After he wins, who transferred from Georgia to Washington? Can anybody tell me in the chat? It's somebody. Who was it? Eason. Was it Eason? Eason transfers. And when Eason transfers from Georgia to Washington, he wins the quarterback battle. And after Eason wins the quarterback battle, a guy named Jake Haener loses the quarterback battle. So Jake Haener transfers to Fresno State, and he wins the quarterback battle there, and he beats out this kid by the name of Woolridge, Ben Woolridge. So Ben Woolridge loses the quarterback battle to Jake Haener and transfers to Louisiana. Did we get all that? 6 degrees of separation here? So, once again, over here, we have Ben Woolridge at Louisiana because of a quarterback battle at Georgia. Follow that shit. All right. That being said, Ben Woolridge used to be a pretty decent football player. I believe he was injured last year and didn't play. So, this is his chance to shine. A little underwhelming. Low ceiling, high floor, whatever you want to call it. Just another starting quarterback at the FBS level. Congratulations. Tate Rodemaker. I didn't put what school he's at. Is he at Southern Miss? Tate Rodemaker transferring to Southern Miss. That's probably off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Former Florida State quarterback going to Southern Miss. Congratulations. Parker Navarro. Parker Navarro going to be the starting quarterback. I think he just won it in the spring, and that's why Harris hit the portal. If you guys don't know, they had Rourke at starting quarterback and a guy named C.J. Harris. And C.J. Harris was the backup quarterback at Ohio. And he got to play like the second game of the season because Rourke was injured. And Harris was absolute trash. T rations, bro. Hot trash, capital T. He was not it. So you go into the spring and you know this guy Harris can't play football. So they're having a battle and they're like, you know what? We'll just go with Parker Navarro. So who's Parker Navarro? Well, he's a transfer from UCF. And he's a pretty good football player. He's not bad. His tape looks good. So Harris loses the quarterback battle, and instead of staying at Ohio to be the backup, he transfers to Cal, which is absurd because Cal's got 3 quarterbacks better than him. Maybe he wants a Cal degree. Maybe, yeah, you want to be a Cal Berkeley graduate or something. I don't know. A.J. Duffy looks like he's winning that quarterback battle at San Diego State. I'm proud of him. Shout out to him. He looked great in the spring, but so did the other 2 quarterbacks. Everybody looked good. Sean Lewis's offense was on and popping. All 3 quarterbacks at San Diego State looked good in the spring. A.J. Duffy, former Florida State quarterback, by the way. We'll leave it at that. Let me go back to the chat, and then I'll get back over here. Chat's usually pretty short. We'll get to it. Motor City Muscle says, not sold on Orgy. Pause. I think Bryce Underwood will transfer to Michigan in a year. Watch and see. Oh, man, that'll be great. That'd be great. All these people out here predicting shit. That'll be great. I think they don't want another young quarterback transferring in, Motor City Muscle. I think they're going to go the Ohio State route and transfer in a senior, a junior. I think you'd be better off saying, anybody else will be transferring. Ethan Garbers will transfer in. Say somebody who's been playing. Do you have a list? Do you have a top 50 quarterback list overall? Eric, no, I don't have a top 50 quarterback list overall. What I do have is if you go on YouTube and instead of the live streams, click on the video tab and scroll down and scroll and scroll and scroll. You will find I have like top 10, top 20 quarterback wide receiver combos. I might have top 10 quarterbacks. You got to just keep looking, man. Where do I have Mikey Keene ranked? Mikey Keene is not ranked on this because he started last year. I love Mikey Keene. Last season, I would have had Mikey Keene in my top 10 as a first-time starter, leaving UCF, going to Fresno State. Shout out to him. It's hard when you're doing this without Google, bruh. It's hard when you're just sitting there talking about 50 different quarterbacks and guys start throwing out extra names. But I like Mikey Keene, dude. He's a baller. I hope he does well at Fresno. I'm excited for him. Let me get back to the chat, back to the list. Number 41. Burt Emanuel Jr., Central Michigan. Congratulations. He'll be a starting quarterback. How good is he? Guys, tape looks bad. Tape looks bad. I'm letting you know now. The MAC has some bad quarterback play. Number 42, Goose Crowder. Evan Kramer. Talk to me, bro. Evan Kramer's one of my day one MVPs, one of my day one channel members. Evan Kramer is now on the Troy recruiting staff. He went to the school, said, I want to be a part of this. And he's on the Troy recruiting staff. Congratulations, Evan Kramer. I'm proud of you, man. Now that you're doing this, talk to me, bro, because I'm looking at your quarterback on tape. Goose Crowder. I got like 12 plays. They all look positive. Never thrown an interception in his life. But my God, I have no idea if that's your starting quarterback, what he's about. Nothing. Number 43 is Nick Evers in UConn. A lot of you guys have been high on Nick Evers. I have never been high on Nick Evers as a former 4-star quarterback. Started his career at Oklahoma, transferred to Wisconsin. Now he just transferred to UConn. I'm assuming he wins the quarterback battle. I'm assuming he wins the quarterback job, but I could be wrong. Okay? Number 44, Devin Dampier, New Mexico. New coaching staff. Shout out to Rocco Mendenhall. I look at this dude. Devin Dampier is a freshman. Probably going to a sophomore year now. Devin Dampier, athletic, bro. I like him. He's feisty. He's got more upside than a lot of dudes behind him, except, I feel bad because Cameron Edge is actually pretty decent. I didn't realize I had Cameron Edge down here. We'll get to him. So, underwhelming Dampier, underwhelming A.J. Padgett at Rice. Cameron Edge is the 3rd or 4th string quarterback at Maryland. Watch him hit the portal next year, and teams are going to go after Cameron Edge. Cameron Edge can play football. He looked good in the spring game. Cameron Edge looks good on tape. That's a 3rd string quarterback out there that I think a lot of teams will value. If there's recruiting staffs doing their work, they're looking at Cameron Edge because he's not happy being on the bench at Maryland. He's not happy getting passed up by dudes, transfers they're bringing in, right, like MJ Morris, who have more eligibility than you. He's got to leave if he wants to see the field. I like Cameron Edge a lot, just so you know. He's got to graduate first, I assume. Owen McCown, one of Colorado's finest, transferring. I believe he played his high school ball at Rusk Ruskin, Texas. Went to Colorado for a year. Got to see some playing time. You guys know Owen McCown's family. Dad, uncle, all that shit. But going to UTSA, I think he's the starting quarterback now. Shout out to Frank. We had to have a retirement and a departure, but he's finally there. Then we're at 48, and this is the one that's funny to me. I wanted to put him last, but I couldn't after I do all my studying and stuff. 48, Marshall's quarterback room is gross. Cam Francis just left, went down to FAU, good quarterback. And what are they left with? They're left with a guy named Colin Parachek, who played great in the spring. I know nothing about Colin outside of his spring performance. I watched it. It was cool. Cole Pennington, Chad Pennington's son. Trash, bro. Oh my God. Let me do this. Let me show you guys. I can't just say it. Shout out to Cole Pennington. I'm sure he's on his way. For me, it feels like a silver spoon kid who's getting the job off of nepotism and shouldn't be on the field. This is a man in his college career so far. He is looking like Tim Boyle. This man has a 57% completion percentage, 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. How are you still on the field? How are you still in rotation? What is going on? Is it because your dad played there? Because you can't play here. This is crazy. Cole Pennington is not it. Period. One of the worst. And then you have Braylon Braxton, the Tulsa transfer I told you about. Braylon looks amazing on film. Does everything right. Until he doesn't. Something happened. Somebody hit Braylon with that truth serum or something, that karma serum, and he's been playing like shit ever since. Ethan Hampton at NIU, and I think this is winning the job by default. I shouldn't disrespect him like this. Ethan Hampton's done nothing wrong to be way down here. He's just not known goods. Just not. He was backing up Rocky Lombardi, bro. He was backing up a Lombardi dude with long blonde hair. Been in college football for 50 years. I don't know anything about Ethan Hampton. Work with me, bro. Work with me. Speaking of not knowing anything, I saw Wyoming, even Savoda, I believe he's from Snow College, and Jaden Clemens transfer from Utah, battling it out in the spring, and it looks like Savoda is winning this battle. Whatever. Shout out to Tommy Ulatowski, Kent State. I like him. Doesn't play great. Doesn't do anything exceptional. I think he's a Chicago kid, 6'2". I just like his moxie. Who's the kid who transferred in from Purdue last year and won that starting job? I'm forgetting his name. He's not there anymore. He hit the portal again. The Purdue third, fourth string quarterback transferred in and won the starting job last year. It was bad. So Tommy, man, go get it. Walker Eget, San Jose State, is somehow winning this quarterback battle. I don't know. San Jose State, they just hired Ken, right? Ken Niamatulu. Ken, the end coach, the dude from Navy, the greatest man alive. I can't say his last name, bro. Don't judge me. But they brought him in, and he's giving all the quarterbacks a fair shot. I thought I had penciled in Jay Butterfield. You guys don't know, that's an Oregon transfer from 2 years ago. And I thought he was going to be the starter. And then they brought in another transfer. And I watched the spring game, and it's Walker Eget doing everything. Walker Eget, I don't know shit about him. Forrest Brock, the new starting quarterback at Temple. They lose Kurt Warner's son. He leaves, right? E.J. Warner, complete stud. I think he went to Rice. Oh, did I have Rice in here? A.J. Padgett? That shouldn't be right. That's E.J. That's E.J. Warner. That's a typo. Somebody's going to be spamming me in the chat about that. I'm sure of it. That's on me. Man, that's oversight. If he wins the job, I guess. But either way, Forrest Brock. And then the worst quarterback room in America, New Mexico State. 2 junior college guys, Brandon Nunez and Awad Parker. 2 junior college guys battling it out with Deuce Hogan. Deuce Hogan's he's a transfer from Kentucky, and before Kentucky, he was somewhere else. Another school. I'm drawing a blank. Nonetheless, 50 different quarterback battles, over 50 quarterbacks talked about. Obviously, there was quarterback battles in here, so I've talked about 60 guys. I hope you learned about different quarterbacks, new first-year starters. I'm going to go to the chat one last time and then end the show. Thanks for hanging out with me for this one. Let's see what we got here. Appreciate it, Rico. Shout out to you, Donnie. Thanks for being here. I'm a little higher on Childs and Murphy. Talk me down on both of them. What am I missing? Help me, Rico knows. RJ, there's nothing to talk about here. First and foremost, Childs is number 8 for me. If you're higher, congratulations. We have a difference in opinion. I'm not going to talk you off of it. It's fine. The people in front of him, I feel, If you have anybody that I have in front of him, behind him, we need to talk. I'm assuming you have Lenor Sellers behind him, Brennan Sorsby. I just think you don't watch football at all levels if that's the way it works. You might just be a fan. You might just have fandom, and fandom doesn't reside over here, so it is what it is. More power to you, and I thank you for being a fan, and thank you for being my fan. Thank you for being in my chat talking to me. I appreciate you guys. Rico, can I ask what you think about Minnesota's Darius Taylor? Been on him since high school. Connor. Let's do this, Connor. On the show, I'll show you guys what you do when you have questions like this. You go to TikTok. You just go to TikTok. And in the chat bar, you just search and you just say Minnesota. Rico knows. Right? And as soon as you do that, you just start looking. And look at that. Hidden gem, Minnesota freshman running back Darius Taylor. I posted a video on 9/11. 2023 back in September. So you've been on him since high school. I've been on him since 9/11. Only 25,000 people watched that video. But I talked about Darius Taylor then. I think Darius Taylor is a professional athlete. I think Darius Taylor is an NFL running back. I've been high on Darius Taylor from the jump. The minute I saw him and he got in the game, I couldn't believe that he beat out Sean Tyler, a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher at the FBS level, got to Minnesota and found out there's levels to this. I can't beat out this kid, this grown man in Darius Taylor. So I think he's amazing. Thank you for the question, Connor. I appreciate you, man. Wisconsin legend Nick Evers blowing out the hot air. Try Glass, and I appreciate you and your humor, but you guys know for 2 years I've told you Nick Evers was never going to play at Wisconsin, never going to play at Oklahoma. I don't think Nick Evers is that guy. It's just the way I assess tape, man. I wish college teams listened to me, paid me. All they do is ask for my help. All I do is give it. I'm just a good guy in that regard. Nonetheless, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Shout out to TikTok. Shout out to YouTube. Remember, you're